Hello and welcome to World Talks. I'm Sasha Farbach. Now, Romania's President Nicușor recently met with Moldova's President Maia Sandu in Chișinău amid key regional shifts and ongoing talks about European integration and security cooperation. So, what does this visit mean for Moldova's EU aspirations? How will it impact regional stability and cooperation? And what role can Romania play in supporting its neighbor during these pivotal times? Now, to help us unpack all these questions and more, we're now joined in the studio by Eusebiu Slavitescu, former Romanian diplomat. Thanks so much for coming and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's begin quite bluntly. Let's see about the idea of Romania and Moldova. I mean, we've had a lot of pro-Romanian sentiment. How realistic is that idea of uniting these two countries now?
Well, when you say uniting, maybe you're referring to coming back to what we were. Yeah, let me remind you the pact that enabled Moldova to break away from Romania, Ribbentrop-Molotov, this Stalinist and communist criminal legacy that the Polish people understand so much better than we do, although experience have been tragic on both sides. Moldova and Romania united. The process has started some time ago with the pro-European forces. Of course, we're talking about a state, two states, Romania, Moldova. Although we understand today's geopolitics and political positions, we are not fooling ourselves. Moldovans are our brothers and our sisters, just like Nicușor said yesterday. And I'm really glad he chose Moldova as his first visit, although to my eyes, Moldova is not really a foreign trip, because these are not foreigners. These are our brothers and our sisters, and it matters. And he did so not out of sentimentality, but out of strategy. Because Moldova's today, it's indispensable not only to Romania's security, but to Romania as a whole. So the conversation about the unification, the official conversation about the unifications, are on standby for now. My understanding is around 30-something% up to 40% of Moldovans would wish to unite with Romania. In Romania, I don't have the numbers, but I think for the moment this is a conversation that we need to keep it on standby. As we speak, Moldova is doing tremendous progress to integrate the European Union. Romania has been, from the very first second, the loudest champion on behalf of Moldova within the European Union, whether we talk about 2022, when the status candidate was offered to Moldova by the EU, either we talk about 2024, when the accession talks officially began. And by the way, Moldova is doing tremendous progress. So having Moldova within the European Union, that would sort of bring Moldova back to the European family where it actually belongs. Mm-hmm. And if we go even further down the road and we take the borders out, what will eventually happen, that means 200 kilometers towards east. That means a Moldova that is out of Russians' criminal boots.
On that subject and on that note, we take the borders out. Borders are, of course, very tricky in many ways.
Very.
How does Transnistria fit into all this? Because you're saying very much that Moldova has made this progress, tremendous progress, as you said, EU accession, various chapters being opened, etc. But Transnistria, how does this complicate not only the accession process, but other things in Moldova's and Romania's path, potentially?
It does exactly what you said. It complicates things. It creates chaos and destabilization. And remember, whenever you see chaos, destabilization, you see Russian textbook manuals. Because what is Transnistria? This breakaway region from Moldova in 1991. It's not some local government. I keep saying it and I will always repeat it. We're talking about Russia. Because Russia will always try, once they've created this frozen conflict, and I've said it many times, to keep a hand in, to keep it weak, divided, and chaotic, and to activate it as a weapons whenever the criminal Russian Federation wants. They've done so in Transnistria. Let me remind you, just a couple of months ago, Transnistria cut off the gas, which had Moldova in a tight spot. Luckily for our brothers and sisters from Moldova. Since 2022, when Moldova was fully dependent on Russian gas, right now Moldova is fully independent of Russian gas with the help of neighboring Romania. So it can be done, not just Moldova. Everybody can do it, because we have this conversation in Europe with some countries still want to get cheap Russian gas. But we've seen where that led European Union to war. And to, again, Russia, just like Transnistria, uses energy as a foreign policy weapon. They have done so repeatedly.
You mentioned the Russian playbook there. Obviously, we've had Russian interference there. We've had those very close
Massive
elections
Russian
in Moldova,
interference.
also
Yes.
in your own country, in Romania as well. How is that going at this point in time? I mean, Nicușor Dan's visit there to Chișinău, that's also symbolic. But, I mean, looking at now the future of Russian interference there, are we past the point where things are now under control? How do you assess Russia's interference role in Moldova? I mean, there's still communities that were very susceptible to what was going on there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the danger not only hasn't gone away, it's going to be increasingly worse from now on. Let me just say, Nicușor Dan, the president, the newly president of Romania, and Maia, Sandu, the president of the Republic of Moldova, this has been among the very few leaders in the world that have won against the Russian massive interference. Let me remind you the Romanian political drama in the past few months. It was huge. In Moldova, the stakes, because the election now is in Poland and Romania are done, now Moldova is next. And I've said it and I will keep saying it, Russia will do absolutely everything to interfere in Moldova's election. The stakes for Russia are just too high at this point, whether we talk security, geopolitics, economy, all of this stuff. Because a Moldova under the Russian boots, which, by the way, in the past years, this is why Russia is investing unlimited resources in Moldova, and we have seen the proofs, because they are this close of getting away of the Russian boot. And that's why they're activating Transnistria whenever they want, whether it's energy crisis, security, or anything. And let me remind you, Transnistria is just 100 kilometers away from Galați, from Romania. So that is a direct threat. Not to mention, if you've seen the report in Financial Times, Russia plans to bring another 10,000 soldiers through Transnistria. Luckily for us, the brave Ukrainians are resisting.
I was going to say, logistically, that's hard to do.
Absolutely. Only if Odessa and the southern part of Ukraine falls, then you could see this. And I absolutely believe the reports from Financial Times, because more Russian troops in Transnistria means more chaos, means more destabilization in the region with neighboring NATO. And again, you can always count on Russia to create chaos, destabilization, poverty, war, and all of this stuff. This is Russians, again, textbook. We've seen it in Georgia, we've seen it in Donbass, Crimea, we've seen it in Transnistria, and we will continue to see it if we don't stop it. Russia will stop at nothing until we stop it. And we haven't been very successful of that.
You mentioned also in terms of Maia Sandu of Moldova stepping forward, really much warning about this Russian interference, very much a very pro-European leader. Also given now that, let's say, the political, let's say, her direction is more secure at this point in time. NATO, that whole subject of potential closer cooperation, maybe membership for Moldova. I know that in the constitution that's a little bit trickier, Moldova, but we've had already that security agreement with the EU and also Moldova some months ago. Where are we into this path? Is Moldova potentially now looking at a closer tie-in with NATO? Will that help? What's your assessment of that?
Moldova already has increasingly closer ties to NATO and to Romania and some other partners. We now know NATO has opened a liaison officer in Chișinău. We now know Romania is providing non-lethal military help to Moldova as much as it can give within this neutrality within the constitution. Of course, the whole conversation on security on Moldova, it's the conversation on security in Romania. Let's be very real about that. And the whole key to this conversation is Ukraine. If Ukraine falls, Moldova is next, undoubtedly so. And again, Moldova is in a very rough spot right now. They're having elections in September. Chances are pro-Russian forces are winning this. It's going to be very tight. We know Russia is going to fool in millions of dollars through any way possible they can think of, and they will do it. And let me remind you, for the referendum, to integrate European Union's referendum, they won by a margin of 0.7. So the margins there are very tight. They're very thin. So everything will play out in September. All eyes will be on Chișinău right now.
Yeah, and also that's an interesting question now, because we have, on the one hand, the politics and the leadership, as you said, these things that matter on a higher level. What about the narrative for the ordinary Moldovan? I mean, where is this resonating? Are the policymakers really reaching those local communities? Is this resonating on that? Do they understand the threats? I mean, has that changed? How do you assess what's on the ground there seen by the Moldovan people?
So, if I'd be looking back in the past years and past elections, I would say maybe Moldovans do understand. And to be honest, Moldova has done tremendous progress in the past years. As I said, you would see in the past 3 years leaders of the European Union, and not only marching in Chișinău more than you would see in Warsaw and in Bucharest. Maybe just in Brussels, because it's Brussels. So that really shows that Europe really understands the stakes here, and they have been helping Moldova a lot. What's next for Moldova? Honestly, these elections are of paramount importance. What happens right now, because just imagine if the pro-Russian forces are winning this. All the progress that has been, done in the past years can be completely switched. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, you can have a pro-Russian government in Moldova inviting their brothers and sisters from Russia, maybe inviting 10K soldiers in Transnistria. I mean, all of these are incredibly dangerous. And again, this is a direct threat to Romania. And right now, Romania more than anybody else, because again, this is family, but also the European Union, Poland, bilaterally, every single act to help Moldova be resilient in front of what's going to come. And we're going to see a lot in the media, because Russia in Moldova goes a lot farther than it went in Romania, for example. Because in Romania we have laws, we have some judiciary, everything. It's a European country. In Moldova they have no limits. They go as far as possible with those millions of dollars that was found at the airport by the police, or by Ilan Shor pushing for offshores millions of dollars through Israel or some other, everything will be done. Mm-hmm. Again, Russia needs this. And it's also the message that Russia still has the capacity to reach every corner in the Eastern and Central Europe. And Transnistria is exactly that.
Mm-hmm. So it does sound still that this is very much almost a literal battleground, important not just for Moldova,
Absolutely.
For the region, for Europe, and it's still something that we're going to have to dissect. And as you said, resilience is key. Look, Eusebiu Slavitescu, thank you so much for sharing all those insights. I appreciate it. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but much more coming up right here on TVP World, so stay tuned. Goodbye.